First and foremost, we need to categorize this as not a very good movie. The plot is paper thin, and even though we have some talented actors in this thing, they don't have a lot to work with, so the performances are quite off as well. That being said, it's a fascinating glimpse into the late 80s. The movie has a lot of satanic type innuendo and not so innuendo going on. And if you grew up in the 80s, you might remember the Satanic Panic. Today, these references might not hit as hard, but to those of us that remember, it was a thing. I'd imagine this movie fit right in at the time. Watching this made me think of the old Geraldo Rivera documentary that aired on television back in 1988, all about the Satanic Panic. And that we watched it in school. That's how frightened people were back then. Researching that documentary for this video, I found out that the current QAnon community have given the documentary a bit of a resurgence. What a time to be alive. So now that we have the context laid out, let's get into the 5 reasons you should watch Cellar Dweller. 1. The special effects. John Carl Buechler probably deserves his own episode. There's too much to talk about in just a paragraph or two. Roger Corman referred to Buechler as the best in the business. It's often cited that he was the first person to jump into the director's chair from working in makeup and special effects. Not only did he direct Cellar Dweller, but he's part of the FX crew as well. And if there's a bright spot in this cellar, it's the impressively well done effects. Especially for a direct-to-video movie with a budget of just $900,000. John would go on and direct Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, and give us Kane Hodder as Jason. He also worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. One of his FX credits that I haven't seen yet, and I need to rectify, is Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. He also worked on Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. Sadly, in 2016, John would pass away from stage 4 prostate cancer. 2. The cast. We have a Broadway star, Ann Munster, with Yvonne DiCarlo. Yvonne has not 1, but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The future CEO of Paramount Pictures, Brian Robbins, who you might remember from General Hospital, Head of the Class, and the game show Pictionary. A 60s television star, Vince Edwards, of Dr. Ben Casey fame. He has over 80 acting credits on IMDb. According to People magazine, we also have one of the most beautiful people in the world, Deborah Ferrantino, who besides showing up on a plethora of television shows, also went on to become a journalist working with PBS and CBS News. If you ever watched Dynasty back in the day, then you'll know Pamela Bellwood. She also starred in quite a few of my favorite movies from the 80s. Also, we have a Days of Our Lives star that's continued to stay busy, even showing up on the current Halo television series. Finally, we have Jeffrey Combs, of Reanimator fame, and way too many other credits for me to mention. He's horror royalty and also deserves his own episode. 3. The screenwriter. Don Mancini wrote the movie. I believe it was the first movie he'd written, though originally he tried not to take credit for it, using the name Kit Dubois, and had even given an interview in which he talked about Kit. He's a talentless hack, even less talented than myself, who wrote a piece of meh called Cellar Dweller. Fortunately, we've never heard from him again. You'll know Don because directly after Cellar Dweller, he wrote Child's Play, introducing us to a cultural icon with Chucky, which he's continued to work on, through the movies and now on the television show. Number 4. It's short. Normally I'm not a fan of movies that hover around the length of your average television show, but here, it's a bit of a blessing. Cellar Dweller is a tight 77 minutes. The trouble is when you compare it to its contemporaries. Crypt, for instance, has multiple stories told in its 120 minutes, and each character feels a little more defined. Their motivations are clear, and the consequences are fun to watch. Here, the characters are more caricature than fleshed out individuals, which, going back to EC comic stories, is true to form. Usually the only character development you got from the comics came right at the end, when the characters realized what they had gotten themselves into. 5. The messaging. Cellar Dweller is very much an EC Comics type story, and those were basically morality plays. Here, the warning is about asking evil home, dark thoughts being manifested into reality. Much like the Satanic Panic, and that Geraldo Rivera documentary, that had intended to warn people about the dangers of satanic worship, how many people learned about it and said, hell yeah, sign me up? When you breathe life into what you fear, you manifest it into reality. Our main character does just that in this movie. And in typical EC Comics tradition, the results are deadly. Well, there you go. 5 reasons to watch Cellar Dweller. Hopefully you're inspired to give it a go, or watch it again if you haven't revisited it in a while. Take care, and see you next time when we talk about Alone in the Dark from 1982.